Good evening, everybody. At this time, I will open the special meeting for Thursday, September 3rd, 2020 for Trumbull Planning and Zoning. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. Okay. At this time, we will do the roll call. Mr. Khoury. Here. Mr. LeConte, are you online?
I'm online here.
Okay, Mr. LeConte is online. Mr. D'Aquila?
Here.
Mr. Silber?
Here.
Mr. Prush?
Here.
Mr. Cinto?
Here.
And Mr. Garrity, myself, is here. Before we start the public hearing, again, we are in our second hybrid meeting here where we are live because of the application's magnitude, and we are also hybrid on Zoom. We'd like to thank Trumbull IT, Mr. Chin, and his staff here who have done a great job getting us up and running again. And Attorney Cordone would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is James Cordone. I'm one of the town attorneys. This is the September 3rd, 2020 special meeting of the Trumbull Planning and Zoning Commission. This meeting is being conducted by video conference and teleconference over the internet and or the telephone pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order 7B and Order 7I. The applicant in part and the commission in part are present in person, and also remotely. Those in person are appropriately socially distanced. Access and participation for the public and or any other interested parties is provided only by video conference and teleconference over the internet and telephone. The public may comment during the public comment section of the meeting, either by Zoom or video conference, electronically by raising your hand when we get to that point. Further instructions will be provided at that time. Please note that posting comments on Facebook Live or any other online format will not be included in the record, and the commission will not see those comments. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the Trumbull Town website 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Materials for all applications and presentations were posted on the Trumbull Town website 24 hours in advance of this meeting. I would ask all commissioners and participants to remember to please identify yourself prior to speaking for the benefit of those who might be listening only by telephone. And I would ask the chairman to make sure that any votes are taken by roll call vote. Finally, I advise the public and all those participating that this meeting is being recorded. And lastly, I'd like to echo, Mr. Chairman, your thanks, especially to Bill Chin, the IT department, with Trumbull TV, Katie Dunn and Lara Walden, and Everett Rendy, the Board of Education, custodial staff, and security for helping us have the event here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. At this time, I will read the application and then I will make a brief announcement for the public. We are going to continue the application here this evening of 5065 and 5085 Main Street. Applicants K&K Developers Incorporated, Trumbull Shopping Center Number 2 LLC, and WEA CT Houses LLC are requesting a special permit with a site plan to allow a proposed 260-unit multifamily residential community and associated site improvements pursuant to Article 2, Section 3.4 of the Town of Trumbull Zoning and Regulations, File 20-4. This is continued from July 15th and August 19th's regular meeting. So one of the things that we expect this evening is, in the last time we met in full, the commission had several questions that came up that needed to be answered by the applicant. And there were also some staff questions. So the staff questions have caused some facts to go back and forth on the stormwater drainage plan for the applicant as submitted, and changes have been made. And there's also been input from the city of Bridgeport and the town of Fairfield, along with Trumbull, with the applicant, going back and forth with modifications and changes up until, we believe, last night and today. So in an effort to continue this, we are going to hear this evening the answer from the applicant to all the questions that we've had, answer all the questions that the commissioners have with all the changes that have been submitted since the last time we met, and answers to the questions. But until we have a finalized plan, which includes a finalized water retention plan from the applicant, we will not have public comment because we don't have a full application to present to them for comment. This application is a little different. This isn't like the applications where we can make a condition that the applicant will abide by the town engineer's comments on their plan. This isn't a simple piping. This is a large construction project and square footage. So that plan has to be complete before we can have our discussions and deliberations and the public can actually comment on the full application. So in short, it is unlikely that the public will be able to comment tonight as stated because the application still has modifications up until the next meeting. So at this time, the applicant can take the stand and hopefully present us some answers to the questions from 2 meetings ago.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Nuff. I'm an attorney with an office at 147 Broad Street in Milford, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the 3 applicants. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, at the end of the first hearing, the commission members asked a number of really good questions, and we appreciate the opportunity to respond to all those questions this evening. As we did with EMS, fire, and police, we really took your concerns to heart, and we have responded in a substantive and significant fashion, such that every request has been incorporated into the revised plans. Mr. Chairman, you had described the commission's role in this application on the first night very well when you said that it is to ensure that the applicants are coloring within the lines. There's no question that the original application did comply with all relevant criteria, but by making these revisions, it demonstrates that the applicants want to go far beyond mere compliance. For years, I've referred to the partnership that exists between the mall and the town, and it's been quite a productive one. And now with these changes, Leonard and Scott, as generational owners who are placing their faith, confidence, and considerable amount of their own resources into this proposed community and the town of Trumbull, they are further demonstrating their desire to extend their hands in partnership with the town. It was an excellent project when we started. It's made better with all of your inputs. The team will respond to the commission's questions by area of expertise and in detail. I want to highlight the most important changes since we were last before you. First, we have eliminated the left-hand turn-in from Main Street. It is now a right-in, right-out only. We have modified all 3 entrances in response to the chair's concerns to add sort of an easy pass lane for residents and also the ability for non-residents to turn around and leave that entrance. We have provided a fully ADA accessible sidewalk from the community to the crosswalk that leads to the mall. We have enhanced the crosswalk feature and connectivity to the mall. We have added a walking trail that connects with the community sidewalk system. We have reached a tentative understanding with Greater Bridgeport Transit to offer bus stops that are more proximate to the community than the main bus depot located adjacent to the food courts. And we have modified the island at the end of the main access drive where it meets the ring road to better facilitate movements in that area. In addition to detailing these plans, we want to provide additional evidence as requested by the commission on 2 important subjects. First, Stan Yaskowski will provide testimony as to the fiscal impacts to the town from the proposed community. And we will also hear from Stephen Fleur from URW on the future of the mall and just how critical the proposed community is to its survival. There are literally daily reports about the upheaval in the marketplace facing regional shopping malls, anchor stores, and retail in general. And these And these plague regional shopping malls across the country and literally across the globe. Unprecedented doesn't begin to describe the unique set of challenges a mall owner must navigate. And the town, as a partner, is understandably proprietary about the prospects for the mall. We all want what's best for the mall because that's what's best for the town and the town's tax rolls. And what's best for the mall and the town and the region is an environment that encourages private investment, substantial private investment with no investment by the community in creating a viable, relevant, and vibrant mixed-use retail, entertainment, and dining destination that the town can be proud of. And frankly, that's the crossroads at which we find ourselves. Down one path is the addition of a luxury community on the mall's front door as the first step in that revitalization and reinvestment process. And this is precisely the path endorsed by the town's own consultant, Stantec, about 2 years ago when you passed our reg change and zone change applications. And really candidly, down the other path is the perhaps slow but certain demise of the mall. So as to the specific changes that we've made, as I noted, we have eliminated the left in off of Main Street. We have provided a new traffic addendum. That traffic addendum indicates that there are no changes in the levels of service as we had originally proposed them. Mike Dion, who are traffic engineers here, don't see any reason in the interest of keeping things concise to have him come up, but he's here to answer questions. But we have made that change at the commission's request and after consultation with OSTA. We also had an email exchange with Greater Bridgeport Transit. We have provided that for the record. That was Mr. DeQuilla's request, and they have indicated at least preliminarily that they will provide 2 bus stops in a location proximate to the crosswalk, and we will continue our dialogue with Greater Bridgeport to ensure that that takes place. Other people testifying this evening will be John Schmitz, who will talk about the new entrances into the community, the new sidewalk, and also the proposed change to the island at the connection between the main access drive and the ring road. Wayne Viola is going to be talking about the enhanced crosswalk and connectivity and the new walking path, and he's going to take you through all the colored renderings that we provided some time ago. We're going to hear from Stan Yaskowski, as I said, regarding fiscal impacts, and then Stephen Fleur from URW. So with that, I'm going to bring up John Schmitz.
Can I ask a format question? You touched some of the answers. Will you be going question by question with the answers?
I think once we get through everybody, we want to do it by, as I said, by expertise rather than question by question.
Well, when they do, let's point out whether it takes you, let's point out what page and the question that it is so everybody can check off.
Okay.
I don't want a memory test from everybody that each of the questions was answered and covered by you.
No, that's understandable. I mean, certainly some of the questions rose to a higher prominence than others, such as the left in and the gates at all the access points. But we're happy to go through all the questions in whatever format that the commission desires. So, John Schmitz.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Schmitz. I'm a civil engineer, senior engineer with BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. If we could please see slide number 1, slide number 1, which is the site plan, overall site plan. So everybody should be seeing the colored rendering of the site plan. As you'll remember, north is up the page. The parkway is along the top part of the plan. It's a cutoff here. Main Street is along the right side of the plan. We propose 3 driveway entrances to the site, one off of Main Street, as Attorney Nuff indicated, where we'll have a right in, right out. Another driveway at the south end off of the main entry drive for the mall, which is also a right in, right out. And then a third driveway off of the mall's ring road on the west side, which is a full access, meaning that you'd be able to make a left and a right exiting. You'll also be able to enter from left and right. If we go to slide number 5, it'll show you a blow up of each of those. We can go through the improvements that we made. So this slide represents a blow up of each of the 3 drives that I just pointed out. We'll go in order from the top left, which is the western driveway. What we've done here, again, this is the only full access driveway to the facility, to the development. This driveway includes a center median island with a call box. There is a stacking lane they'll accommodate 3 vehicles. There's also a bypass lane so that residents who have an easy pass type system don't need a call box. They can obviously drive right up to the gate. The gate is shown on there. It's approximately 25 feet or so away from the end of the island. So a car that's stopped at the call box, there's room for a bypass. Somebody can go right through the gate or right up to the gate. The gate will open, they can enter. There's also a turnaround area. You'll see a curve to the top side of that island. That's in case somebody goes to the call box, the person they're calling isn't available, isn't there. They can turn left, make a U-turn and exit from that driveway. Again, from this driveway, you can go left or right. Also, this driveway, you'll notice that we have the crosswalk adjacent to there. One of the changes we made.
Can you show me where the gate is there? So the gate is to the right of the green rectangle?
Correct. So there's a black line. If I can
Okay,
approach.
yeah, go ahead. And what's the mechanism to open the gate? Where is it at? Oh, I understand that. Okay, so there's 2 lanes going in, but only 1 gate that goes up?
Excuse me, sir. I'm going to have to ask you just to speak up so we can catch it on the microphone as much as you can. I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Chair.
I would ask the question, I understand what you're doing. I'm just trying to understand why the gates would be so far from the call boxes or the easy pass switch so that, they would know whether they're in or not.
The room here, again, 25 feet, is so that if somebody gets to the call box and they're not allowed in or the person they're calling isn't there, they need to have room to be able to turn their vehicle around. So that's the reason for that separation distance.
Maybe you can help me with the confusion. 2 cars are there at the same time. The easy pass worked. The other guy thinks it's him and he goes first. That's why I'm asking why there wasn't 2 gates in each of those lanes, 1 in each lane.
We have never looked at that type of a scenario. I haven't personally seen that type of a scenario.
I live in one.
But, okay. I guess take a look at it. But this would function where, again, this person is stopped waiting for.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're
the other person
explaining. I'm
can go
just
right by.
asking from your expertise, when 2 people are there at the same time and somebody pushed the button and they see the gate go up, not realizing it's the easy pass person and both cars proceed.
I mean, I think what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is that can somebody sneak in behind somebody else? Is that?
Or go first.
Well, the gate would only register when the person with the easy pass is close enough to the gate where it would go up. So.
Oh, so the easy pass trigger is not in the same place as the call box.
It's correct.
That's the answer to my
It would be
question.
closer to the gate. So
That's
they would
the-
have to come right up to the gate before. I mean, you'd have to more or less come to a stop.
That's the answer.
Okay. Okay. And just while I'm up here, similar situations at all 3. Gate here, leaving room for a turnaround on the south side, and same thing here. Although on the eastern entrance off of Main Street, the gate is further back. And what we've done there is to again, you'll recall from last time, create a parking space for a truck. So if a truck came in, a loading vehicle, couldn't get in, they're not going to block the whole road. They can pull off here until they're then let in. By the same token, on the opposite side of the road here, there were a couple of parking spaces. We removed those parking spaces and created a hatched area. There was a question about, well, if people are out there, if the bus stops and the people wanted to park to watch their kid or pick up their kid, we reserved a couple of spots, basically the hatched area where they could sit in their car. We believe most people will just walk to get their children on or off the bus in the morning.
Yeah, I'll ask one more question that I know I'm familiar with. The actual physical gate's about 4 feet shorter than the lane, right? It's not the same length as the lane.
That's correct. Yeah, yes.
Right.
And so, yeah, and of course, in all of them, the gates are to the perimeter outside edge, and the gates open from the middle, or open from the controller upwards.
Right. Residents with
yes.
motorcycles can drive right past the gate and leave past the gate.
I suppose that if there's enough room, they could.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes. So again, I just want to point out with the driveway on Main Street that it's been turned into a right-in, right-out based on our discussions with OSTA and their decision to not entertain a left turn in. We never had a left turn out, but they decided that a left turn in would not be warranted and indicated that they would only allow a right in, right out. So that driveway's been further modified, again, to just allow the right in, right out. If we could go to slide number 1 again.
Through the chair. Quick question.
You stay here for a second.
Yeah, so I see the right in, right out. But I was just wondering, is there a best practice for avoiding like the sneak lefts, which are inevitably going to happen, right?
Can I answer that? Yeah. Sure. The OSTA has indicated they prefer to have a center median line there in Main Street. So previously we had room right where there's a cursor, there's a red dot right there. Currently there's a striped median today. Not stopping anybody from doing anything. But what we would do would be to provide a raised median island there so that it would be a physical barrier to prohibit people sneaking a left turn. And of course, that's got to be approved by OSTA as well as the district office.
That would minimize it, because a lot of people are going to try and make that sharp angle there, right? Inevitably,
correct.
somebody's going to try and do that.
Right. As much as we've tried with the geometry to restrict the lefts, the median island would prohibit that. And by the same token, on the southerly driveway, there's already a median island in the middle of the mall driveway, so we don't have that same issue there. And the median there prohibits people from taking a left. So, of course, there they'd be turning into oncoming traffic. So, it's not something that would be advised. If we look at the lower graphic there, the southerly driveway, you'll see that we have a sidewalk coming in on both sides of that southerly access driveway. There's a sidewalk to the left side of the driveway. That's actually part of our ADA ramp system that'll allow us to proceed down to the mall. If we go to slide number 1, I'll show you the full run of that. That was added. So again, from the south entry drive, we provided a ramp system to make up the grade difference. If you recall from last meeting's testimony, the grade difference along the ring road on the west side is approximately 30 feet, which is why we have a staircase. What we've done here is to provide ramp system along the south side where the grades are a little closer for us, and we provided a sidewalk along the mall entrance and along the ring road that gets all the way to the crosswalk, as shown where the red dot is today. I'll let Wayne Violet give you some of the specifics of the crosswalk when he gets there, but I just want to point out where that crosswalk, or where the new ADA sidewalk is today. At the same time, where the crosswalk is, Attorney Nuff had mentioned, we've been in discussions with Greater Bridgeport Transit, and they've indicated that they would entertain having a new bus stop, probably a bus sign on both sides. So you'd be able to service people living here. They wouldn't need to walk all the way to the bus stop, or rather the bus hub. And if we could go to slide number 6. Slide number 6 is an overall plan, shows the entire mall and it's and how it relates to the development. You'll see here where the bus hub is located, the current bus hub where Greater Bridgeport Transit lines are. So by putting, by able to accommodate a couple of bus stops in both directions by the new crosswalk on the ring road, it saves over 1,000 feet of walking for someone trying to get to the bus hub. So it was very, we're very lucky to be able to work with Greater Bridgeport Transit to have them agree to add a couple of bus stops there. And while we're on this slide too, if you could zoom in on the mall entry drive where it hits the ring road. There's a traffic signal there today. If you entered from Main Street and drove down the mall entry drive. Yep. I zoom in a little more. We can see the some of the islands there. There was discussion about a double left there and concern about cars running over median or trucks and the narrowness of some of the lanes. So almost there. Yep, there's a little more, pan down a little bit more, and we should be able to see that island. Okay, so here you'll see in the lower left-hand corner is where the mall's entry drive ties in with the ring road. It's currently a signalized intersection. It's a three-legged intersection. Cars coming from LA Fitness from the north, exiting the mall property, have an opportunity. There's a double left, meaning that from both lanes, you can turn left and head east toward the mall entry drive and out toward Main Street. What we've done is take a look at that to widen that out. The technical term is increase the throat distance. Today it's about 24 feet, 25 feet. So a standard lane by comparison is about 12 feet. What we'll be doing is widening that to approximately 36 feet at the ring road and then taper it back on the lower island. Right, so if we go to, if we can go to slide number 11, it's kind of a blow up with the
You
graph.
intend, I've always had the same recommendation. I see it says proposed outline adjustment. You're making the center esplanade shorter.
We cut back, so there's two things. We cut back, there's two components to this, correct. Cutting back the center island with a, I would deem that a minor widening, I suppose. And
That's huge for the cars on the inside
right,
lane.
and then correct. And then on the outside lane, we also push that back another 5 or 6 feet and taper that back. So it provides additional throat to receive cars in the outside lane turning. So that's, it should definitely improve the traffic flow. And I did take a ride out there recently and noted that, you know, somebody had driven up on, a truck had driven up on the curb and left, you know, the tire tracks in the mulch. So clearly there's an issue there with some people turning. So this will certainly alleviate that.
I've heard it somewhere before.
Yeah. So again, that's a proposed improvement that we've been making there. And what I'm going to do is call up Wayne Violet, who's going to give you a little bit more detail on the crosswalk and some of the other improvements that we proposed with regards to the connectivity and the walking path.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Wayne Violet, Senior Landscape Architect, BL Companies. I'm going to first start us with walking you through an addition we made to the plan, really inspired or somewhat derived from some of the conversations and discussions that happened at the last meeting. So when we have a moment, if we can pull up Exhibit EXH1. This is the overall site plan. It should be a PDF. It would probably be slide 1 if it was something else. It would be an overall rendered plan. Yeah, so where I'm going to start with, as I mentioned, is something we added to the plan since the last time we met. There was discussions the last time about walkability. This is a community, a residential feel. Always part of the proposal was the inner sidewalks and walkways as part of the proposal. One thing that we didn't previously show, but are now showing on the plans, is a perimeter walking path. That's located, I'm going to use my laser here, so I don't necessarily have to come up to the front if we can see it. Oh, there we go. So we have now added a perimeter walking path that starts, I'm going to start at the north end here. Starts right here on the plans, runs north to south along Main Street. So that runs north to south along Main Street. That's located between the front landscaped berm that's on the proposed plans and the proposed parking areas. So we have this perimeter walking path that continues across this easterly access drive. This connects into the inner sidewalk system that's currently proposed on the plan. And that perimeter walking path continues to the south along Main Street. And again, we've got this great kind of, very natural form, curvilinear form.
Can we stay right there for a second?
Yes, we can.
This is great that you're adding it for the interior. So right where you were going across the main entrance on Main Street, what are you going to put there? I assume you want them to turn down towards the center on both sides. You don't want them walking across in front of the main traffic, right?
Yeah, currently
So what is your plan for vegetation or blockage or whatever you're going to put on either side to deter people from walking from that walk path straight across and force them to turn?
Yep. So two questions there. I just want the first one first. Yeah, the intention for the crossing of this path is at the established inner crosswalk at the very center of the development. So anyone who would make that crossing would come down to that center, make the crossing here to the sidewalk system as proposed, and then come back out to the perimeter sidewalk system. Second question about deterring people from, if we don't want folks crossing there from a safety standpoint, from a little bit of traffic in that area, we can do that with two different ways, whether it's a, appropriately designed barrier system, bollard fencing, and or landscaping, adding a shrub row, ground covers to really prevent people from entering that zone.
I mean, it can be ground level. I don't. It just
Sure.
something to deter, because the last thing you want is a crosswalk
Sure.
and people
Yeah.
barreling in, taking a right, and have to slam the brakes instantly.
Point well taken. So it is intended that the crossing is at the established crosswalk here at the center, and they would kind of move back to that perimeter walkway. But what we don't show on the plan, and we'd be more than happy to show that, is a definitive, barrier or ground cover system that would really deter people from, walking into that area. So great point. So I just wanted to continue with that perimeter walking path. So it moves southerly, again, along the entire Main Street corridor. The curvilinear nature to it really intends to work with the existing vegetation, the berming that we have proposed there. And that perimeter walking path terminates, again, at our inner sidewalk system, right here at the southerly-most entry. And then we have sidewalks as proposed on the plan throughout the development. So that's a new addition, that front walking path that was really spurred a little bit from discussions during our last meeting. The intention for that walking path is intended to be a 4-foot wide walking path, if I hadn't mentioned that during it. So the second thing that I want to walk through, and if we don't mind pulling up Exhibit EX11, it might be near the end of the group of PDFs.
Well, you know what? I forgot to announce at the beginning, and I'll just add it now. Sorry. We're going to do a semi-hard stop at 9, an absolute hard stop by 9:30. All right?
Thank you. So what I wanted to show you now was the pedestrian connection to the mall. We started down a little bit of this conversation during last time, but as the meeting was getting late, we wanted to really spend some time coming up with some different illustrations, way to show what we're proposing for the pedestrian connection to the mall. So I'll walk you through a handful of images and renderings, illustrations that attempt to do that, to attempt to make that clearer of what we're proposing. But on this current one that we're viewing now, top left, this is the current view, actually not so long ago taken, just on the hillside, coming in, view from the proposed site, hillside looking down towards the mall. This here, or this area here, which is the same, this is a existing view and this is a proposed view. This is the parking deck that's right along the ring road when you come in. So what this illustration tries to show is the pedestrian connection coming down the hillside, which you will see that in other illustrations, a new enhanced pedestrian zone with landscaping, these black elements, which are really kind of great linking elements, ways to make a statement visually. These are light bollards, so really to help you navigate from one point to the other. Those are lined along this new pedestrian zone. So this area really focuses on that new pedestrian crossing across the ring road. The existing ring road in this area is a 5 lanes for vehicular traffic. In this proposal, we are narrowing down in this section to 4 lanes. What that will allow is for a refuge area and median in the center of the ring road. That will be a raised median with appropriate landscaping to allow folks and users and patrons to the mall and residents of the community to walk across the mall ring road, feel a bit more comfortable than walking over a complete 5 lanes of traffic. So you'll see that here. We've also shown on the proposed plans that this is intended to be not a painted crosswalk, but a stamped material crosswalk, a little bit more substantial than just striping. So that would typically be stamped asphalt or stamped concrete. Colored version really attract the eye and let you know this is a different area and make it very safe for pedestrians crossing. This is a proposed 12-foot wide crossing in this area, so plenty of width for patrons and users to cross the space.
Through the chair. So the question is, are those medians to scale? Because they look, I'm super glad they're there, but they look small. I mean, it's as a refuge for somebody, you know, fighting against traffic, a pedestrian that is.
Sure. So 2 things. One, I will tell you, this is an illustration, so there's a little bit of bird's eye perspective happening here. We will look at a plan view, so we'll get the actual dimensions of that. But the intention is that median, that raised median, is pretty much the width of a lane. So where we're previously, the existing conditions is a 5-lane roadway, approximately 10 to 12 feet we are utilizing for a raised median for that area. But we could see it in plan view because I can see in this particular view, it's sometimes hard to see that perspective. Just the other thing I'll mention here is not only do you take the pedestrians from the development to this crosswalk, but we're also showing improvements from the other side of the crosswalk to the mall entrance at the northeast corner. So we're showing expansion to existing parking lot islands along the ring road, new landscaping, new crosswalks. We really want to make that connection from one point to the other and not simply draw people, into an existing condition. Question?
So
Use your microphone, Tom. Use that microphone.
This is Commissioner DeQuilla. The crosswalks do not have the characteristics of white stripes. And normally people look at white stripes as a degree of protection. Once they go on them, everybody has to stop. But does everybody have to stop when you come up?
Yep.
That's just a question.
Excellent question. Almost leading in right to my next point. So that's perfect. So the intention for the crosswalk material, as we're saying, that's probably a colored stamped asphalt or stamped concrete. Typically how those are built is on either side running along the crosswalk. You'll get long 12-inch bands of white painted striping. In addition to that, there will be signage and the flashing beacons at either side of the crosswalk for oncoming traffic to alert that pedestrians have the right of way in this particular zone. So there won't be a traffic light or something that way, but there will be those flashing beacons where if we have pedestrians queued up and ready to cross, the traffic is intended to stop.
Again, this is Commissioner Bullock.
Yeah.
The high-frequency flashing beacon, I have a question as to whether or not it's effective. We have that similar device in our Paquonic Valley crossing of Route 111, and now we have police officers stationed there to make sure people stop.
Sure.
So that suggests to me
Sure.
it may not be totally efficient, but it may be more efficient than the original light that was flashing on and off.
Sure.
I'd just like to get your opinion.
Yeah, my opinion from a landscape architect standpoint, so a traffic engineer can certainly chime in as well.
Yeah.
But the volume difference for the Mall Ring Road may be different than that other location that's being used in town.
That's apples and oranges, Mr. DeQuilla. You're right with that situation. There's cars doing 80 miles an hour downhill towards that crosswalk. This is a level, and they've only got 50 feet since they took the right at the light. So,
Yeah, and if we might actually, we've seen this view a bit. If we might go to EXH2, which is a plan view, I want to show where this crosswalk is proposed to be located, almost in comparison to the existing crossing on the Ring Road now, just as a little bit of a comparison. So perfect. This is a great view here. So this is just what we were looking at in plan view. We're looking at from the top. This is the Mall Ring Road. This is the existing painted crosswalk that exists when you're entering the mall from the main entrance. When you make that turn, here is the extra accessory parking that we have here. This is that existing location of that painted crosswalk. And just for reference, which helps with that safety, helps with that slowdown, this crosswalk is proposed much further north than that location, really at the intersection where our western access point is entering the Ring Road. And why is that important is because we're going to be having traffic here, stop traffic coming out, but this provides a lot of flat, viewable distance to see pedestrians. In comparison, this existing crosswalk location is kind of right around that corner. It's really not that far away. The mature landscaping out there certainly can be deterrent and not helpful.
now that we're showing this, I see your brand new crosswalk. Is it just the way this slide is set up, or is that the way it's going to look, and you do not intend to also mirror that crosswalk with the one that's by the stairs, right?
So if the question was,
The stairs are
Yeah,
the stairs are right there, right?
yeah, so this
this
is,
crosswalk that you keep referencing, the one that
Yes.
exists at the lower
yes,
end,
right.
that's, you had no intention previous to tonight to make it look like the rest for connectivity, so that, it's going across to the new development. I would think that you would want that crosswalk and those islands to match the ones on the other side, because, if you have your residents walking out of whatever store happens to be there, coming across the street, you want them to have the same feel going across both ways, don't you?
The answer to that is perhaps, and I think it's a great suggestion. It's not currently part of the proposal, but as a great suggestion and point well taken that, using this area as a complete experience, that would certainly seem reasonable.
Yeah, no, the additions that you have listed are great.
Yeah.
But, this is the classic spike the ball on the 1 yard line,
Yes.
So,
Mr.
Chairman,
Garrett,
we want to make clear
Garrity?
that
Yeah, I have a
crosswalk
couple of
that is
questions
now
over here.
at the bottom of the screen, that crosswalk will be eliminated. I mean, as for the reasons that Wayne indicated, we want to deter people from using that crosswalk and go to the much safer crosswalk with the flashing beacons and the raised crosswalk further north. So the idea is to eliminate that crosswalk and
Okay.
encourage people who are living in the community.
That's fine.
So,
But you should you should probably still continue your enhancement to the edge of your property line, one would think. You know,
And just to be clear, on which side of the ring road, Mr. Chairman?
on the mall side. You enhanced it there, keep going straight, there you go. Go to the edge of your property, and it's one experience, it's one property, it's one match. You know, it kind of looks like you only want to address the part where they walk across the street. It's, I don't know.
Again, we're happy to take a look at it. I don't know how it implicates parking, probably not significantly, but again, I think we want to encourage people
talking
to
to me?
use that main pedestrian access and not just sort of wander through the parking field itself.
Yeah, I don't think we're making any significant changes with the comment that I'm making, other than adding the new vegetation and the new dress up the same way you're doing it above.
Understood.
Commissioner LeConte has a question online.
Yes, the getting through here in the holiday seasons, if the mall is busy again, I don't think this is going to be satisfactory. I think we're going to need blinking lights or blinking red lights or blinking caution lights, because once they make that right turn to go to the edge or to the other side of the complex, they're not going to be able to get across. They should have something that's have a light there that they can stop the traffic. I think is going to be needed. I think that should be considered at this particular time. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeConte. We had assessed the need for a traffic light in that location. We had long discussions with the police department. We actually did a traffic signal warrant analysis, and it does not warrant a signal in that area.
Is there a way, I'm just speaking out loud, conversation speak, is there something that's in between for the holiday season, for the mall to come out with security, like temporary blinking lights? You're already going to have blinking lights there. Are there temporary caution lights, slow signals, something like that, that would appease the commissioners? Because we all grown up around here. We all know that the mall, from now previous to Black Friday all the way till Christmas Day, is you can't find a parking spot. So, you know, I understand his point. So I would think that, maybe not right in this 5 seconds, but we should think about what you can do to enhance the safety of that crosswalk. I understand the not having a need for a full light.
Understood. And we'd be happy to talk to Pat Madden, who's obviously the mall manager,
Right.
to see how that crosswalk could be augmented. It also goes back to the very first night when we talked about when residents are going to be visiting the mall and the purpose of their visits and whether they're going to be walking or driving. I would suspect that if a resident is doing Christmas shopping and they're going to have lots of packages, they may choose to drive.
Right. But we have
don't
to
know
be
about the weather,
prepared, because
but we appreciate the comments, and we can get back to you next
to
time.
Commissioner LeConte's point, we know for a fact that during that season, you're going to see an increase of 5,000 to 10,000 cars a day. That's not insignificant.
Knock wood, yes, hopefully.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Go ahead.
just a question. I don't know if I have to turn this on.
It's on.
Oh,
Just ask commissioners to identify themselves before they speak.
yeah, this is Commissioner Corey. The crosswalk at the bottom of that you're proposing to eliminate, I think, I would think that was put there for people who are walking into the mall from the main street, because they would be,
Right, so where that crosswalk is, there is a sidewalk. You can see sort of like a jog in the sidewalk.
yeah,
But again, the idea is that if you are coming down, so there's going to be a sidewalk that, as John Schmitz had indicated earlier, there's going to be a sidewalk that leads from the community south to the ring road. It's going to arc around the auxiliary parking area. It's going to continue north in that area that's at the bottom of the screen, and then continue north to that crosswalk.
Right.
So the whole idea being is to encourage in every possible way people to utilize sidewalks to get to that main crosswalk.
but if that crosswalk at the bottom of the screen is used for people walking into the mall, don't you
Right,
think, rather than walk all the way, by taking that away, don't you think, rather than walking all the way up to the new one, they're just going to cut across and it's going to be dangerous?
I mean, there is that possibility. I mean,
They're just going to walk unsafely. When you come down there, Mr. Nuff, you have a main store entrance, you have a main entrance to the mall to the left, and restaurants there, multiple restaurants. So when you come down, you're expecting people to now walk another eighth of a mile up, across, and an eighth of a mile back, instead of walking across where there used to be a crosswalk.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe creating an unsafe.
I don't know why.
But as Wayne indicated, the idea is that drivers have a lot less time to see a pedestrian in that crosswalk than they
How many
do.
pedestrians have been hit in the last 20 years while it's there now?
I mean, can we, could someone make that move? It's functionally not that much different if someone were to park.
But
in that-
am I
in that parking-
incorrect by, you're arguing against the safety of the crosswalk that you've had in place in the exact same place with almost the exact same traffic, all but 200 cars a day?
It's not to say that it couldn't be improved, and we consider this to be
Yeah,
an improvement.
the concern is if you do take it away, then you might have an accident there. People cut across, so if you just left it there, it would be at least as safe as it is now. But if you take it away, then it might be more unsafe by taking it away. I don't know what it would hurt to leave it.
We're
Did the
happy to,
removal of that go by the police commission traffic? Did the removal of that specifically get discussed at the police commission traffic?
I believe it's depicted in the plans. I don't recall a specific discussion about the elimination of that crosswalk.
I don't know what it hurts to keep it there. I mean, the people from the apartments have a new crosswalk, which is good for them. There might be more traffic, but it seems like it would
There's
just,
no question that URW and all three applicants have as greater or greater of an interest in the safety of the pedestrians as the commission does. I mean, so we're happy to take a look at it, but again,
Yeah, and I think what we're talking about now is more Westfield pedestrian than it
Understood.
is for the pedestrians that live there, because, I see people walking in and out and going to the bus and coming down. And as Commissioner Corey's correct, there's people walk down that hill every day. And that's where they're used to walking across the street. So I guess we can talk about it after. So let's you keep going. And just so you don't get lost, like I said at the beginning, tonight, I want you to go through every one of these. You might say, as discussed already in detail, whatever, but I want you to hit every question.
No question. Okay, go ahead. Was it? Yeah, sure.
Okay, question.
Commissioner DePaulo, which is the new sidewalk? Obviously, the one on the ring road is a new sidewalk. What about that curved one? Is that new?
And the curve, do you mean this one here on the
No,
screen?
no.
No.
Further down.
Okay.
Coming off of the mall entry drive. You have to go bring it up. Or something.
Oh, okay. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we'll bring up EXH1, which is the overall rendering. That'll show the full proposed plan. So I don't know if this was that area.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Is that new or old?
Yeah, so this sidewalk that's located along the mall entry drive and Ring Road is all new sidewalk. That will be ADA compliant sidewalk, and that will connect our development ADA wise to the mall Ring Road and to this crosswalk and connection. So yes, that is new sidewalk that runs along the mall entry drive and the mall Ring Road.
But if that is a new sidewalk and the mall ring sidewalk, the mall Ring Road is also a new sidewalk, the only reason for that crosswalk would be for people parking in that parking lot. And people don't park in that parking lot, to the best of my recollection.
No, that's not the only reason. It's an entryway for people coming down and entering the mall, walking as a
On
pedestrian.
Main Street,
Yes, absolutely, every day.
they're not walking on a sidewalk then. They're walking on a road.
Right, they're walking on the road, but at least there's a crosswalk to guide them across.
Okay.
That's what it's for.
I never saw people walking on the road, but it's okay.
Yeah, great. Okay, so if you don't mind, just really quickly, we're gonna walk through some of the exhibits again to just really help show that pedestrian connection. We'll look at that hillside connection with the stairway. So we're actually going to start with CS1, which probably is in the top of the deck or pretty close to the top of the deck. CS1. This is a cross-sectional view of the Main Street to the proposed development. The two cross-sectional lines, and again, Main Street would be here in plan view. The two cross-sectional lines show Main Street all the way to the proposed buildings and community residences. So in this top cross-section rendering, we have Main Street here. And I think we've presented similar renderings and exhibits in the past. But just to refresh it, we wanted to show that vegetated front yard area with the vegetated berm in the front area. This is an approximate location of where you might have that perimeter walking path that we walked through before. So a pretty robust planting area. This is illustrative. There'll be new plantings, and at the same time, we're going to save some of those great existing native trees where we can in that front yard where it makes sense, where it's safe. So the new plantings will supplement that. So that's what the top cross section is here, just to kind of show you that. Bottom one, very similar, just flipped to the lower side of the development. So we have Main Street here on the right. Again, the vegetative berm. That ranges anywhere from that green space between Main Street and the development ranges anywhere from 50 to 100 feet in width. So pretty extensive. And again, that will be filled with existing trees that are out there, new supplemental plantings with the berm. And then you have that great perimeter walkway, after dinner or something, residents can kind of come out, take a walk around different ways around the community. So pretty interesting. So with that, can we bring up CS2, which is a cross-section of the ring road and the proposed development. It really shows that stairway connection from the development down. And so again, this is illustrative. The mall ring road being here on the left-hand side, the proposed development here on the right. This is an approximate, this is a cross-sectional illustration of that transition from the upper level of the residential community down to the ring road. The stairway is intended to be, outdoor stairways with wider treads. So this is not going to feel like an interior stairway with 12-inch treads. These are a bit wider. So you're getting a little bit of a longer run. In plan view, we've done this very interesting kind of pattern. This way it just shows some interesting as you're moving up and down, residents moving up and down, going from the mall to the residential community, just some interest horizontally on a regular basis. And that takes you down to that mall ring road where we've got that crossing as before.
Excuse me.
Question?
So if someone is coming from the mall back to the apartments, they cannot push like a stroller because of the stairs?
So this pedestrian connection, this access point to the residential community is not ADA compliant. We do have an ADA compliant connection, which is to that southern entry at the development. But the western entry, which is where this is the western entry, that is a stairway and that is not ADA compliant. You'll get some folks who carry some pretty heavy things up the stairs, but this is going to be a stairway. And on the plan view, we were just looking at this area here. So this is that stairway down because we have an elevation change from the residential community down to the ring road. But we do have a accessible route, which from the community, which is down the southerly access drive, which is that new sidewalk, around the mall entry drive and ring road to the crossing here. So we do provide an accessible route, but this access point is not. There's an elevation
People are
change.
going to walk in and out of the driveway. There's just, you're not going to stop it. That's, they're going to choose to walk up the driveway rather than go southerly, especially if they live in one of the northern buildings.
Yeah, and just for reference, the driveway, exceeds ADA compliance, so it's over 5% the driveway itself. But certainly
How come there's
people.
not a walkway along the driveway so you can just walk right up?
Currently, there's not a walkway proposed along the driveway. Again, it exceeds the 5%, accessible route. So we've done our team's done studies, we've looked at it. It requires an extensive amount of land area in order to make, that.
There's a drive, if you go into Town Hall Commons, they have when you walk down that road, it's only a brick walk that's 5 feet wide, you can walk right down. Because people come through those corners very quickly. And if you're not on that sidewalk if you try walking up the driveway at Old Town, it's dangerous because some people come up the hill quick. So you have to be on that sidewalk.
Right.
And I don't think it's not more than 6 or 7 feet of space to put a sidewalk along the road.
Yeah, that's right. The width is pretty reasonably, 4 to 6 feet in width. It's that length because there's guidelines to allowing an accessible route with appropriate landing areas and things that way. So the length of the sidewalk, that kind of connection, really wasn't feasible for this particular access point on the proposed
It
development.
makes sense to me in such a huge project that you don't have room. I mean, maybe you have too many apartments if you can't fit a sidewalk in.
Right.
I mean, do you ever think of that?
I think it's a little bit of a different comparison, but currently it's not on the proposed plans, but we do provide an accessible route from the residential community along that
But they're
mall
going
access
to
road.
go up the road. Doesn't make sense to walk all the way around. And you can walk right up that road.
Very steep.
We do provide that accessible route. We wanted to make sure that's clear. So just to keep the walking tour moving, if we can go to EX9, I think we'll be on the last one or two here. Probably near the back area. So a couple other views of the mall, Mall Ring Road. We have existing photos on the left-hand side and illustrative views kind of on the right-hand side of what it would look and feel like from the ring road with the proposed developments. So you'll see here a little bit of layering of new vegetation, the new stairway, access point, new crosswalks. Again, just illustrative, just to give you a little bit of a feel, a better understanding of what this might look like really in those very specific views that are captured on the left-hand side.
Thank you, Fred. So I was wondering, so by the stairs, it's more of a knoll than it is than it is wooded. Do you intend for it to be that way?
Say again,
It
please.
looks like around the stairs, it's just a clear knoll, and I thought it would be, am I using that word right? But I thought it would be, maybe as an alternative, the wood line comes all the way up closer to the stairs, because then it provides a buffer to the apartments from, for people.
I see. Yeah, so I think the question is, does this illustration represent the exact clearing limits as far as the proposed development? Likely not, to be honest with you. How these typically will work, we'll save all, native, good, healthy, safe, trees within that wooded edge. That makes sense. Right. For the illustration, it would start to kind of block what the view is. So that's a very good point. We'll try to maintain as much of the existing vegetation outside of the limit of development, which is usually your grading line. We'll save as much of that as we can. Start to clear. Sometimes a couple more have to come down, just their safety, or they're not all that great looking. But yes, we'll attempt to save as much of that existing vegetation and that buffer as we can along that ring road. And then the final view that we'll take a look at, I think, is EX10, which might be the next one. And again, just another illustration here. This is a little bit of a, perhaps you're a bird flying over this area, just looking at that westerly access point to the ring road. Again, seeing that grade change from the upper development down to the Mall Ring Road with that staircase traversing the slope, that crossing there at the point that we've talked about, that raised median. So just again, helping to illustrate the proposal for these areas. So I've walked, I think, through, if not all, most of the renderings, and we can answer questions as we need to as we finish, or if we have any now.
Commissioner DeCullo, on the EX10, you have a wall, a concrete wall. How wide is it?
The actual wall per development is probably going to be anywhere between 18 and 24 inches in width. John Schmitz can help me with the exact material if we specified that on the plans already, but typically you'll see that kind of width on the wall. You might get a little bit of, typically, depending on the product used for the wall, sometimes the walls slope back a little bit to allow for the kind of gravity hold. So in total, you might have, 18 to 36 inches from top to bottom, but it's not intended to be, an overly wide wall.
I have a 3-year-old grandson.
Sure.
He'll be climbing up that. Can we somehow put something to prevent that from happening?
Absolutely, because I have 2 little ones myself, and they would probably do the same thing. So definitely at the top of the wall.
Grandparental guidance.
Definitely at the top of the wall, you'll have all the very typical safety fencing that you would need there. And at that wrapping point, where you have kind of the grade of the wall meeting the earth, where you have or its lowest point, you can simply wrap that security, that perimeter fencing around that corner to really.
So that's a commitment.
You got it. Yes, that is a commitment to really make sure that can happen. So that's not a concern. Yep, good question.
Just one more question. I hate to belabor this, but couldn't you make a spiral walkway up that bank so you don't have to go quarter mile to get up the hill? Just go back and forth rather than have to use stairs?
Yeah, we have studied that. We have looked at that. And currently in the proposal, that is not included. We have looked at that area of whether it's prudent and feasible for us to include that versus showing the other.
Could you present what you laid out so we could at least see it?
We can. I'm sure we'll discuss it. But currently we do provide an accessible route where we show it on the plans. We viewed this area, and currently it's not part of the proposal.
You're talking about switchbacks? Kind of a thing?
Yeah, they've studied it. I'd like to see what it looked like, the switchback.
And Commissioner Carr, I just want to be very clear. So essentially what you're talking about is a sidewalk that just parallels the access way or the driveway.
No, well,
No, he's
it
talking
doesn't
about
sound
this.
like
He's talking about what a
it's
snake
feasible
gets.
because you have a big wall there and it's taking you way out to the left. So it seems like you need a switchback on the hill to get, if you don't want to take the
Make that an
stairs.
S instead of straight up the hill, right?
Yeah, seems like something like that would be more feasible.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
make,
the difference is it's 4 times.
there's
Having
John
fun?
Schmitz, for the record, engineer. So
Having fun, my
the
kid?
guidelines for ADA hold us to a maximum ramp elevation of 2.5 feet over 30 feet, right? So we're trying to make up a 30-foot grade change from the top to the bottom. So we're talking about
I gotta go for a second. Let me go.
12
Call me right
ramps that
back.
are
Call me
30
right
feet
back.
long.
Hello?
So you're talking about a ramp system that's 360 feet long, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Okay,
to
your
get from
grade
the
has
top.
to be very
So-
shallow.
ADA.
And that's to make it ADA compliant. You could go less than that. It wouldn't be ADA compliant, it'd be even longer. Say if you said, well, we only want to be 5%. You could still make a ramp system, but it would be
No,
over 500 feet long.
but
going
then
back
I-
and forth, back and
Oh.
forth. We
Is it
looked
so-
at
is
it
it
and it
so
was
high?
just, it was really not feasible to proceed any further with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else for Wayne?
Rob LeBrandy. Wayne, so I just had a comment here for the crosswalk. Did you guys look into a tabletop design, a little bit raised for the whole distance? I know there'd be issues with the plows, but I think that would kind of separate it a little bit more and make it a little more safer.
Yeah. So the question was about doing a tabletop or speed table, as some people know them, for the crossing area, which is actually an elevated crosswalk to really force traffic to slow down and things that way. We've considered it, and we are open to that. Sometimes you get into maintenance and other things that folks aren't really happy with, the bus circulation and things that way. So other than considering it and kind of shelving it, and for more of the at-grade crossing, I'll be honest with you, we have considered it, and oftentimes it's really kind of a 50-50 whether it really it checks all the boxes for that to be applicable. So it's not currently part of the proposal. If that's something that Trumbull is really interested in and had success in other locations, perhaps it's a consideration. But we find a lot of times maintenance and other things really create more headache than it might be worth for the amount of crossings that you might have.
Rob, maybe we just take a look at the material and the height, because it's correct. There's going to be trucks and buses going there every day. because one of the truck entrances is right near the food court, you know? So you are going to have trucks and buses going over that. It's not just cars. So
Yeah,
it's got to be something that works for everything.
yeah, there's designs that will go with truck suspension, you know, more with the curvature, speed, larger speed pump style. But I understand. And then one other general question is, you know, I was looking at the distances between the sidewalk crossing the street and the entrances into the mall. And I know walkability, it's always the path of least resistance. So when you're looking across the street to the mall, you know, you're looking past the parking garage into the Macy's entrance. You know, and I'm thinking if I was somebody with a stroller or walking, I'd see that. I'd see it lit. I'd see the visibility of it. I know you're walking through a parking lot that with no islands really once you get into the structural area of it. But I see that really being where people are mostly going to walk rather than going downhill to more of an alley style hugging the mall then. And then going uphill where this is just a flat straight shot right to the entrance. And I know it's not a main entrance, it's to Macy's, I believe. But then if you turn left into that structure, then you have a 400 foot about turn into Lord and Taylor on that parking garage. So I just wanted to know if there was any discussion about another path or, you know, looking into, I know there's no driveway islands and there's a lot of parking on this garage and that's what's used for, but I don't know if, I'd just like to see some discussion about how this sidewalk's really going to, people are actually going to use this connectivity.
If we can we pull up EXH8 or EX8? I think that's the one that shows the aerial, kind of the more macro view, which I think would be helpful for this discussion. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the one. And if we might just zoom out a tinge or touch. Yeah, we prepared this exhibit, which is kind of interesting. So it shows some of the kind of linear feet distances, and a lot of times you like to think of quarter mile is basically like a 5-minute walk. Yeah, that's kind of pretty traditional from like a planning standpoint. Quarter mile being, where's my math? A little over 1,000 linear feet, something like that. So it's helpful seeing the linear feet here, and I know there's more shown, but I think that access point that was just mentioned is kind of up here or even up here, making that connection versus coming down to that northeastern mall entrance. So our discussion, our point of view is we have looked at that. One of the issues, which is a site constraint, it's something to consider, is there's not a lot of meat in quotations in the parking area to simply add clear, defined pedestrian circulation without impacting significantly the parking area. And much of the year, maybe some of the parking could be sacrificed, but that's really not the angle that we're coming in from. So to preserve the parking, to enter towards a main mall entrance is really the direction of why we showed the way we did. But we have considered every route where it makes sense. We know there's going to naturally be people who are going to go to that endpoint and find their own route. So there's not a clear, definitive area in the current layout of the parking to allow for a simple pedestrian connection without, major impact to the existing
So
system.
while you're going through this, you got to think that's a good rendering right there, because I hear what the commissioners are saying. I hear what the staff is saying. So I'm thinking we're leaning towards asking you to come farther down along the mall and maybe not eliminate that, because I see your design, I see your intent. It's kind of like a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. Please go this way and only do 55. We know how that works out. People are going to walk across that sidewalk. They're going to want to go to the other side. And I think we have one chance to get this right, to embrace what the people are going to do, need to do, and we would need to support for a really long time. Not hoping we can push the masses north to hook left to come back south. So,
Mr. Jarrett, I just want to be clear what you're saying. So you're suggesting that the crosswalk should move further south?
no. I'm saying right now, I don't necessarily support the elimination of the lower crosswalk.
Okay, and by the way, I had a conversation, you will keep that side.
Right. So to me, you're putting a development in, right? And you enhanced 35, 40% of the other side of the mall to mirror your development. Why aren't we going the rest of the length? So it's a clear, succinct, this is the part that buddies up with the development and the mall. It should be one picture. And it'd be great if we all knew in the future that everybody was going to walk up and you could eliminate that. But there are people walking down that hill, and there are people who are going to walk straight across. And there are very interesting things in the mall on that left side. No, unless they're very athletic, I doubt they're walking up over to come back. They're going to walk across. So we got one shot at making this, as the commissioners and the staff are suggesting. So I think, we should all be open to it. Go ahead, keep going.
All right, so to be clear, Mr. Chairman, we will keep that sidewalk, and we'll take a look at the recommendation you've made in terms of extending, I guess, the landscaped area and walkway further to the south to meet up with that other crosswalk. Our next person, it's now 8:25. We want to try to adhere to the chair's
Excuse me, I
preferred
think-
time to end.
Just one thing. I think it should have the island too. It should look like
Yeah,
the other one.
That's what I
Should be,
said.
the whole thing should be
both sides, right.
the island and everything, so
It's not
it's a
just a
safe
cro-
zone.
You didn't mention it in your summation, but I think you got the point.
Yes,
Not just a
Un- under-
crosswalk.
understood.
Crosswalks going into mirrored islands like above.
understood. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next presenter is Stan Yaskowski. I just want to, as an introduction to Stan, is to read a portion of an email that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission by Ruth Fontilla. Ms. Fontilla says, I am writing in support of the application of the residences at Maine before the Trumbull Planning and Zoning Commission to build a 260-unit multifamily units at Westfield Mall. I'm a parent and active PTA member on our PTSA Council who advocates for all Trumbull schools and students. While I understand the concern about overcrowding our schools, the experience of 10 Trumbull supports the conclusion that luxury multifamily communities that offer only 1 or 2 bedrooms, such as the residences at Maine, do not add a significant number of school-aged children to our schools. From what I understand, this is consistent with the analysis done by the Rutgers Study Assessment that the residences at Maine projects just over 25 school-aged children when fully rented. Malls are in dire straits all around the country, but if Trumbull loses the revenue from the mall, it will be even more devastating to our schools than adding a few more students when they are rented. The Westfield Mall, as our biggest taxpayer, is an asset we need to protect. Diversification, like the residences, has been a key for many malls to survive. I want Trumbull's Westfield Mall to survive in order to help all of our students in the long run. And if the estimate from the National Association of Home Builders can be believed, these units can additionally bring about $10 million to our local economy. For me, it seems clear the benefits of having these units in Trumbull far outweigh the possible drain on resources a few dozen students joining our school system might pose. So I think that's a really wonderful way to provide some context and a good introduction for Stan's reports.
Is that in the record?
It is in the record, yes.
I don't have a copy. Do we have is that in the record?
Yes, we received an email for that, yeah.
Most of these things were emailed today. If you want to read it.
No, that was Linda, we submitted it a while ago, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think Stan's joining us remotely.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Stanley Yazdowski. I am president of Realty Concepts Incorporated, located in Guilford, Connecticut. I was asked to perform a development impact analysis as of April 1st, 2020 for the proposed 260-unit luxury apartment community on 10.42 acres at 5065 Main Street, Trumbull, Connecticut. Method of analysis included examine pertinent state, county, and town data and demographics, studied the housing demand and lifestyle trends of Trumbull and the surrounding area. I requested input from the town's police, fire, and EMS departments and the Trumbull School Board as to the impact that the proposed development may have on their respective departments. The question has been the number of public school-age children. One of the methodologies that I used was utilizing the new 2018 Rutgers study methodology for the proposed apartment community, and the analysis utilizing Rutgers indicated approximately 27 public school-age children. And keep in mind, that may not be all new children, and maybe some children that may be relocating within the community to apartments with their families. I then developed the estimated real property and personal property taxes the subject apartment community would generate as if in place. And after deducting education costs and estimated municipal costs, it resulted in an estimated net positive tax revenue to the town of Trumbull of about $910,000 annually. So that.
Can you please list your deductions specifically for the record and the commissioners before those questions come up? Because people are instantly going to ask, where did you get those numbers from?
Sure.
So please list what your variables you inserted for each of those costs on the gross income, then the expenses per line item defined, how you came up with your 910 net.
Well, in asking each department, it was, and when I wrote to them and talked to them, is the impact this development would have on staff, equipment, and staff meaning fiscal impact. None of the responses came back with any fiscal impact. So for the, hold on 1 second, please. Click that. For the fire department, there was no impact because it's a volunteer department. Police department, I did an assumption and threw in $100,000 as an expenditure. EMS, there's no impact because the patrons are billed for service. It's a fee for service. I estimated approximately 600 residents at the complex and indicated a $16,000 cost per year for parks and recreation. Senior wellness and other services, I estimated approximately $2,000. Public works, there's no impact because it's a private community and all the roads are serviced by the owner of the property. So that's where those expenses came from. As far as the schools, utilizing the Rutgers study, estimated about 27 school-age children. I then, let me get to that page, 62. On page 62 of the report was the indication for the Rutgers study. And what they indicated, basically, Rutgers looks at the income range and the type of complex that it is. The subject property is recognized as a high-rise or mid-rise because it's 4 stories, has an elevator. And using the ratios for one bedroom and studio apartments and for 2-bedroom apartments as indicated in the analysis, I was able to calculate there's approximately 27 school-age children. So that's where that number came from. Then what I did, I analyzed the expenditures and the student to teacher ratios for a 5-year period. And I estimated that 27 school-age children would indicate approximately an additional 2.13 teachers. I took what the total benefits and salaries would be for those 2.13 teachers, and that indicated an increase of about $349,000. And that was on page 70 of my report. So that's where those numbers came from. Then I generated the estimated real property taxes that the subject property would generate based on a cost approach. And I estimated that the real estate property taxes for real property would be about $1.2 million. Personal property tax, these complexes will have cars. Those cars have to pay a personal property tax. Estimated about 1.5 cars for the 1 bedrooms, 2 cars for the 2 bedrooms. And that indicated that there would be approximately $178,000 generated for the personal property tax. So the total estimated revenue, the project as if in place today, would generate about $1.4 million. Then added up those expenses I talked about. I also threw in a miscellaneous expense of $25,000. My expenses came to $493,000, which netted the municipality a positive tax revenue of about $910,000. So that's where those numbers came from.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Isn't there, this is Commissioner Corey, you said you did not impact any cost for the fire department because it's volunteer. But isn't there like some general concern that when you add a lot of apartments to a town, you could impact the volunteer department where it may have to become paid? And is there some consideration for that?
When I talked to the fire marshal, the indication was that the fire department has the equipment in place to address any issues at the proposed complex. And they did not indicate any increased fiscal impact in their response.
Okay.
Stanley?
Hold on. Just to your point, Commissioner Curry, I agree with the question. You know, you think about that, I thought about that as well. If this was a vacant lot and they were putting this up, it might be a little more impactful than it's being built at the mall with the same fire department that's already servicing the mall. So that's where it
I
kind
just thought that would be like a concern that.
right.
you have
No,
to
I understand.
consider.
Yeah. Go ahead, Commissioner DeQuilla.
Stanley,
Yes.
you said you spoke to or did not speak with the volunteer fire companies?
No, I spoke to the fire marshal.
Yeah? Did you speak with the 3 fire districts or elected officials?
No, I did not.
Because they determine what the budget is for those 3 fire companies.
My question to the fire department was, tell me what the impact would be on manpower, equipment, and any additional cost. The response that I got back was that they had enough equipment in place to service the subject property, and they did not indicate any increased fiscal impact.
They are not elected officials. What you have to do is speak with the fire districts.
Commissioner
elected
DeQuilla, Commissioner DeQuilla, are you aware that the fire marshal and the assistant fire marshal is the chief of the Long Hill Fire Department that services the mall? So the questions to the office that he asked, the chief is the town official. Says he holds both offices. In this particular case, I don't know whether you knew that.
Well, I do know there are 3 individual fire districts.
Right.
They all have their own elected officials.
Right, and this
So
one
we
is,
have to clearly understand the impact of this complex on that budget.
I'm not trying to argue with you, I'm just telling you, that he did what he's done before and others have done. You go to the town fire marshal's office for impact to the town in that area. And in this particular case, I'm just pointing out for you, the assistant fire marshal or deputy fire marshal, whatever his title is, he is the chief of the Long Hill Fire Department. So there is direct knowledge in the town's fire marshal office to be able to answer this question. The other 2, the mall's not in that district.
But the chief is not an elected official.
The chief
He's not an official.
No, he holds 2 offices.
No, I understand that.
What elected official are you talking about?
What we're talking about are the elected officials for the 3 fire districts.
That's, okay, stay there for a second.
Fine.
The elected official for Long Hill Fire Department that services the mall is the town of Trumbull's deputy fire marshal,
And his name is who?
Alex Russo. I'm just trying to point out to you, I understand your zeal for getting that information. The information exists in the 2 people in the fire marshal's office who would be answering that question. I'm just trying to point that out.
Okay, I understand, but Mr. Russo does not speak to the other 2 fire districts.
But this,
And I would
this
like to
development is
have
not in their
that
district.
discussion and that data provided us.
This development is not in their district. They have no requirement to go to
No,
those
it
districts.
is. They also provide mutual aid. What's that? Well, I understand, but the Trumbull Center provides mutual aid for this facility.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
Just to remind the commissioners, I think the point's been made. Just you have a timeline we're working for tonight, so maybe we can make sure we can keep on task with what we have before. So thank you, Mr. McCoy, for your question.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, do you have more, Mr. Trinkowski?
Excuse me?
Are you complete? Are you done?
I'll answer any questions that you have, yes.
The commissioners have any questions for the presenter? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our last presenter is Stephen Fleur from URW.
Good evening, everyone. Just making sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good evening. My name is Stephen Fleur. I have offices at One World Trade Center, 46th floor, New York, New York. I oversee development for Westfield's properties on the East Coast, of course, including Trumbull. And I'd like to thank you again for allowing me to address you this evening. This evening, I'd like to focus on a question that I know is on the minds of this commission and the community. That question is, what does the future look like for Westfield Trumbull? And how does the application before you support that vision? As you have undoubtedly read, seen, and experienced yourselves, COVID-19 has fundamentally changed mall retail. Retail is a business of change, adapting and adopting new styles, desires, wants, and needs. The pace of that change sped up following the Great Recession in 2008. And all the regional malls around the country began to feel impacts, and we began to pivot. And again, COVID accelerated the pace of change even further, pushing many retailers and retail formats to the brink and many beyond at this point. This is a generational change for the industry. This is not something that's going to come and go. This is not something that's going to fix itself in the industry. These impacts are certainly being felt at Westfield Trumbull, and these impacts are far from over. In 2020, close to 25,000 retail locations will close in the United States. 55 to 60% of those are in the malls. This will carry into 2021 and is leaving a completely changed playing field in the industry. Many anchor stores that were once plentiful and successful have succumbed to these changes. The impacts at Trumbull are still being identified, and we're working across our portfolio on how to stabilize and strengthen the core of our retail at our assets to ensure they remain a vibrant center for the communities. But have no doubt, the amount of space coming back requires that we think about a wide variety of complementary uses to bring the centers back to a thriving condition. Fortunately, the introduction of multifamily in Trumbull is well timed. It's a solid first step in creating a rich future for Trumbull, not just for the mall, but for the town. As a community becomes denser, municipalities gain more tax revenue per acre than before development. According to a report prepared by Smart Growth America, tax revenue can increase up to 10 times on average with the introduction of mixed-use development to a community. Here in Trumbull, we have the ability to redefine the mall site to bring elements of live, work, and play to one location. This project represents the next phase of Westfield Trumbull's emergence as a lifestyle destination, and the center will continue to expand its position in the New England market. Prior to COVID, Westfield had already embarked on working toward incorporating a mix of uses to our assets across our portfolio, and the thinking from those projects provide direction to our thinking for Trumbull. That is to say, everything we've envisioned for Trumbull has been successful someplace else. Westfield embarked several years ago on its first residential project in San Diego with Westfield UTC. The center was renovated as a retail resort destination, and the center was updated and upgraded. That project illustrates Westfield's ambition to create mixed-use destinations that integrate everyday life features, blending culture, residential, commercial, and entertainment facilities to build the towns of tomorrow. Once Westfield has cultivated a live, work, play environment for its customer base, it allows us to build that sort of habitual customer engagement that I'm personally very excited about. Retail, of course, is at our core, and we continue to focus on bringing best-in-class retail to the site post-COVID. I look forward to continuing discussions with the town and remain open to all ideas on how to best position Trumbull for the future. And I look forward to taking that first step with this project and want to thank you again for your time this evening. And of course, I'm open to questions about anything specific on the site.
Thank you. I would just ask you as the Westfield representative here, one of the selling points that we've continued to hear is the need to support the mall. So if you could iterate for us any detail that you have on how this development is going to help the mall. I'm sure if we asked the sale value of the property and how much of that is going to be reinvested in the mall to reinvent itself, we're going to say that that's confidential information. But whatever specifics you have when you said successes from other places are here, 600 people is not going to be the difference in whether Trumbull Westfield Mall stays open or not. So if you could tell the commission and the however many thousand people are watching on Facebook, what specifically is Westfield's next steps that you have that you can share to enhance and provide for the mall going into the future, if this is the first step in that process?
Sure, happy to address that. And really, it is a long discussion, and it's one I look forward to continuing with the town. So you're right, 600 people on site. Does that make or break any retail site in the country? Of course not. It helps food and beverage, there's no doubt. It can get you all sorts of studies that talk about when you have a captured audience on site, there are certain categories that do well on an outweighed fashion compared to the rest of the center. There's no doubt about that. But 600 people in terms of the total population on site, that's not the fix. The fix is broader, and the fix is very important, and this is where we're partners in this. By the town passing zoning that allowed for us to do this planning in the first place, to bring the application before you, it allows us to go to the business community, not just the multifamily community, but the overall business community, and say, here's a town that's willing to work on a future vision for the mall. One that matches what we have seen as known success in transforming regional malls across the country into new, vibrant destinations. So multifamily is a step, and it's a step that attracts other uses to the site. It's not a one-for-one. I'm not going to get a whole bunch of dollars out of the wallets of 600 people who live here. I intend to get a lot of their spend, certainly, because it's going to be natural. They're going to stay on site. But what it does is it opens up the door for us to be able to attract the different uses, whether that is new retail, which again, arguably is in a retraction mode. So the overall square footage needed for that becomes less, but allows us to get the different uses, whether that's an entertainment use, whether it's a medical office use, a medical office center, an office use. These are all things that constantly are in flux. And again, COVID is really impacting even the office market. In suburban Connecticut and suburban New Jersey, both have languished over the years to Metro New York. We're now seeing heavy broker action looking for hub and spoke type offices in the suburbs, because the COVID is fundamentally changing how people want to live, how they want to work, and how they want to play. And it's taking people out of the urban environment and bringing them back to the suburban environment to stay local, play local, and shop local. And in order to do that, we need to provide those locations that they can do all of the above. So I don't have a picture to show you tonight of what the mall is going to look like. For any mall that is being significantly impacted by COVID, like this one is, and a number of our malls are that I oversee on the East Coast, this is a very important step, really, in terms of how I started. This proves through action, when I'm out talking to other uses to come to the site and my teams are out there hitting the pavement, this is a town that wants to do business with us and wants us to thrive. I don't know if that answers your question as specifically as you like, but again, I'm happy to keep talking and talk about potentials.
It's probably the best answer that you can give. Unfortunately, we all agree with you, and I don't think the option of developing office space in today's world anybody's investing in, developing in new office buildings when the commercial real estate market is about to plunge next year from everybody working at home.
Yeah,
it's kind of like investing in an 8-track tape.
That's right.
At point. So, what you're able to do and how you're able to do it is you keep referencing in the abstract, but you're talking to those people. And one of the things that we suffer is, every year or two, Mr. Nuff shows up with a plan. And the name of this group is the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yep.
And we are left out of the planning process until the 11th hour, continually. So when you place in front of us a building block and we don't know what we're building, it just continues that process of the planning part of this commission not having, at least a little bit of insight. We understand the business needs and the competitive needs and things that you have to do along that nature, but sharing the vision in some fashion sooner and on an informational scale to the commission level would really help the process as we're all moving forward, because you are right. The mall has been a part of Trumbull for a very long time, and it's the largest part now, and nobody wants to see it go away. So when you're talking to the folks that are going to help you tread water and swim into the future, you really have to do what you can to help us understand the direction that you're going in the best you can.
Happy to do that.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned having residents at the mall can help the food court. Is there some need for a pedestrian walkway to the food court zone to try to bring life to that area so that people feel, when people are around, like walking through Boston, they feel safe and there's people walking all the time? Do we need to tie the food court into this walkway?
I would say, with anybody who comes on site, they go where they want to go, and rarely does someone come to a mall environment for one stop. And selfishly, from my perspective, having been in the mall industry for 2 decades, frankly, I want them to walk through the mall. I want them to come in, I want them to experience the shops and see something that maybe they didn't think about that they wanted until they saw it that very moment. Because though I'm a developer, at the end of the day, I'm also a retailer. And we think the same way in terms of how we bring people in. We know that our existing connection.
One of the things is that high crosswalk. It's probably the closest and most direct to the food court from where those buildings are. It's straight across along Lord Taylor. In the door, there's the escalator down to the food court. It's probably the most direct where that cross is now, the crosswalk that they designed. is probably the most direct path to the food court. It's just logical, in through those doors, down the escalator. So it is a good idea, but I think they've done it for as best they can from where the buildings are located. Any other questions? Mr. Silver?
Thank you, Chairman Garrity. Yeah, I just, you described the San Diego development and the concept of stay, play, shop. And, I share the concern that the chairman just expressed. The 264 apartments is not going to save them all. So it feels a little bit like you're grafting a really, really nice, well-done residential development onto a old 1970s era shopping milieu, and so to the chairman's point, I would as well feel a little bit more comfortable if we could say, well, here are our options. We might, there's a larger integration idea here. And yes, we have to go out to the market and sort of suss it out and see who's interested in doing what. And it could be, medical use, or it could be hub and spoke offices or whatever it is. But it also could be within the next 5 years, more apartments, somebody, you folks coming back to us for more apartments. And then, so what happens then? So I just agree that there needs to be, that we just need to have a clue about what is likely to happen here. Otherwise, this is just, like I said, it's one piece of property. And I think the attorney said that it provides certainty to the mall owner, and that's financial certainty, I'm sure. That's a reference. I think you said in your responses to the questions. And I get that, and we all get that, and we need it, and you need it. But I don't hear even the sketch, even the outline of a master plan in any way. So it would be, and this is a beautiful development, but I still don't hear how this beautiful development is going to help a site where Lord & Taylor is just shutting down, and then Penny's could be next, and Macy's could be next. And we're not talking 5 years from now, we're talking 6 or 8, 12 months from now.
Sure. Yeah, trust me, no one is more aware of where the malls are going than me, living it day in and day out in the negotiations with who's going to stay and who's going to go, if we even have the choice in the matter. But again, I go back to what I said in the beginning, which this provides a first step, and that step has to do with how we work together. I can't tell you 6 months from now or even a year from now who's going to be there and who's not because of where we are with COVID. In a normal pre-COVID time, frankly, we could give you a better look and a better set of thinking based on when we think we would get space back, based on expirations or based on negotiations that we would have with tenants to move them around. At the moment, we have a puzzle that we don't even know what all the pieces look like. And from a planning perspective, we do know that the residential community provides that good first stake in the ground that we can plan off of. And frankly, it's set in the perfect location for us to be able to plan off of it, because it does give us flexibility that when or if boxes come back to us, it gives us the planability around those boxes to start getting creative with what we do with them. Because though I'm always going to want to try to reuse a box, that is not always becoming possible now. As we begin to look at different uses, some of the boxes may have to come down and we may have to rebuild anew. And it's really those projects that as we come back will spur the reinvestment in the rest of the mall itself. But
so one of the things that you might be able to do in the future is, I know a lot of us have day jobs, and I'm sure in many day jobs like mine, you have an if this, then that plan. And maybe 2 or 3. There's an A, this is what we'd like to do. This is what we'll do next. This is what plan C is. That has to exist. So whatever you can share in the future down that road would be great. So
yeah, me too.
I'm sorry, Chairman Garrity. For example, I just read a week ago that the Amazon is looking at using Penny's locations for like warehouses. And so that might be something, and I'm sure you know about it. So that might be something that you'd consider for Trumbull. And to the chairman's point, let us know what you're thinking to the extent that you can.
We will, because frankly, it does, as I keep going back to it, it's a partnership. It really is. In every community that I work in, it's a partnership. You have zoning that's in place. You have ideas of what you want for your town. We take those very seriously. And it's the outline that you set through the zoning that we use as the outline for our planning. It's not to say we wouldn't come back and say, hey, we've got a great idea. It's a little bit square and your zoning's a little bit round. And so can we work on that? Of course, we're going to have those conversations. But
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I
Questions
do.
for Mr. Fleur?
I have one
Conti?
question. Well, in all your properties throughout the United States that you've been trying to do things with over the past couple of years or even now, what has been your 10 most or 5 most successes that you would say we should do this in this type of town?
Sure. Yeah, the first one, and that's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, the first one that I mentioned, of course, is in San Diego. That was our first residential shot, actually, and it's spectacular. It's about a mile from the Pacific Ocean, and it's a high rise, so it lends itself to a certain kind of beauty for certain. The rest of them are centers that are in process right now, I've got to say. So we've got one in North Jersey, in Paramus, New Jersey, Garden State Plaza, which is one of the top 10 assets in the United States from a mall perspective. I am fully entitled there for a mixed-use community, and that's a very dense, more urban environment, and that plan marries up with it accordingly. Down in Bethesda, Maryland, Westfield Montgomery, same instance. We're now fully entitled through the municipality for a similar type development to add mixed use onto the site there. Century City, which is in Los Angeles, is one of our flagship centers. You know, in terms of what you can do with a site that is urban in nature, it's an outdoor center. We invested over $1 billion in that asset, and there's still future potential there to go. In terms of mixed use out of the ground, really UTC is the first one out of the ground. I've mentioned 2 that are up next and will be in the marketplace shortly, moving those forward. And we have a mixed use focus across all of our assets, where we are going through and analyzing and beginning drawing and beginning planning where we can on how we densify those assets and really make them micro villages, not micro cities, but micro villages, because our centers, our successful centers, have always been the hearts of their community. And we know that's a key to their success in the future.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here's Commissioner Conti. If you're done, I would want to set up the next few minutes here. We're going to take a break for 5 minutes, and I mean 5 minutes. We're going to be back on the air in 5 minutes. And when we come back, I would like Mr. Nuff to take us through the questions and answers. And I would like commissioners to, again, jot down any questions you have on his answers. We're not going to interrupt them because we've been waiting for these answers, and I don't want to go away tonight without hearing them. So we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. We're going to come back, and Mr. Nuff is going to go through the questions and answers as expeditiously and succinctly and clearly and informatively as he can in the 25 minutes we have left. And then I'll go around the room again, and the commissioners will bring up any lingering questions from today, and we will talk about the next meeting and information that's due from the applicant. So you want to put we'll be back in 5 minutes. We're on break right now, 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so we are back online in the hearing. So at this point, as I stated before we broke, I would like Attorney Nuff to take us through the questions and answers as succinctly as he can. And unless somebody's catching on fire, let's try not to interrupt him until he's done. Mark your questions down, and then we will go over the logistics for the end of this meeting and what the next meeting will entail, and any other questions we have right now that he should go away and answer. It's all yours, Mr. Nuff.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I don't see any issue with getting done by 9:30. So this is, I'm referring to the memo that's entitled K&K Developers, Trumbull Shopping Center number 2, WEA Connected Houses, responses to P&Z Commission's questions, July 15, 2020. And I would suspect that you each have a copy. We delivered hard copies in, I think, quantity of 12 for just distribution to the entire commission. So you should each have those. And these are also posted on the town website, but was following along at home. So the first questions were from Commissioner DeQuilla on the east-west road. How does one get from the community to the mall? Obviously, Wayne and John Schmitz have discussed that at some length this evening. If you are a pedestrian, you can continue down the staircase. You can also use the ADA accessible sidewalk route down to the crosswalk, which we'll be investigating further between now and the next meeting. And if you are driving a car, of course, you can leave through the access drive on the northern end of the multifamily community, head down toward the crosswalk area.
Mr. Nuff, this is a good example that you can say, I think we presented this tonight in detail.
Okay, I think we
And
presented.
then we move on.
Okay.
If that's the case.
That's the case. If parents drive to the bus stop, wherever they park, there are a number of perpendicular parking spots directly adjacent to Main Street. We don't think that most parents will bother driving because there is such a short walk from the various buildings to the bus stop location right at the main access drive. But should a parent decide to do that, there are plenty of parking spaces that will be empty during bus pickup and drop off in those spaces that are directly adjacent to Main Street that are perpendicular to Main Street. We have discussed the bus stop issue. Commissioner Silver had a question regarding if a tenant rents a garage, how you prevent the other tenants from blocking the space behind it. They will be assigned both spaces. Okay. We'll propose light fixtures shining to units. No, they will be all full cutoff light fixtures. Will sidewalks be provided? We've answered that at length. What kind of sound buffering is provided by the evergreens? Certainly we're not going to do a study as to sound attenuation by evergreens, but it has indicated in the response in communities that are located proximate to highways, which like Mr. Silver satisfied, they can take into account that context and provide greater sound attenuation through building materials. How safe is it for pedestrians across the ring road? I think we answered that as well. What is URW's 5-year plan for the mall itself? I think Stephen did a spectacular job addressing that concern. Commissioner Corey, how many students use the Main Street bus stops in the area? How will this compare? We did not ask for historic numbers because obviously it varies year to year as well as by level of school, both elementary or not both, but through elementary, middle school, and high school. But obviously there have been bus stops in this area for many, many years for all 3 levels of schools, and that will continue in the future. How will applicants address COVID impacts regarding elevator use, shared spaces, and that is complying with all applicable regulations and guidelines issued by the local municipalities, Center for Disease Control, and obviously minimizing contact in community areas. Commissioner Preuss asked about Stanley's presentation. You heard that this evening. Commissioner Garrity asked about the left turn in from Main Street, and we did eliminate that. John Schmitz provided details on queuing at the 3 entrances. We also modified the ring road where it intersects with the main access drive. How will residents exit the site to get to Main Street? We think that they're going to leave primarily through that access drive on the northern end down to the ring road, then make a left. If they do choose to make a left-hand U-turn at the end of the access drive, likely be doing that on their way to work or in the morning when there's no other traffic on the ring road, as well as the fact that that is a signalized intersection and it's a fully protected movement. So could someone make a U-turn? They could. They probably do so even easier with the reconfiguration we presented this evening, but it was also our intent that they would come down the access drive to the north. How can we improve walkability? Wayne did a wonderful job demonstrating the new pedestrian path as well as the interlinkage of the crosswalks in the town center sort of context that the community provides. Biking of course is encouraged. We'll provide bike racks in each building, and there's really beautiful, wonderful areas in which to bike in close proximity to the community. In terms of the generator question
outside each building?
That Attorney Licante or Commissioner Licante asked, his specific concern, we're not going to provide a generator for each unit. No one ever does that because each separately metered. But his concern was also, will there be emergency lighting so that, I think his particular concern was if there was an elderly resident who needed to get down to the lobby, would there be sufficient light for him or her to make that trip? And there is. So the building code requires that there be emergency lighting through the hallways down to the lobby area. So there will be sufficient lighting. Adding generators above and beyond that, frankly is a rather expensive endeavor. As we indicated in the response, we would accept a condition of approval for the provision of a generator for the limited common areas within the building. So, sidewalk maintenance from Rob. It is the applicant's responsibility to provide for that. We talked about the bus stop improvements, and then last was by Bill Maher. And as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, we're working through that with Bill.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about that last.
Okay.
That's nowhere near done. When you did biking, you really mean there'll be a bike rack outside. You're not going to put the bike racks inside the building.
No, I believe they're inside.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this time, do commissioners have any questions that we'd like the applicant to leave with to answer? Mr. Silver, starting with you.
Couple of observations. One, does it make sense to put bollards on the island at the crosswalk?
We're just going to list the questions like last
Okay.
time.
Can we put bollards on the islands at the crosswalk, if that makes sense? Two, can we raise the berm? I saw one that looked about the height of a average person. But the other one on building 3, I think it was low, like 2 feet, 3 feet. I'd like them a little higher. 3, can we add to Chairman Garrity's point, can we add a crosswalk / esplanade, basically on the other side, on the south side of Lord and Taylor that goes to the entrance that's close to Target? 4, I love the path that you put out on Main Street. I wonder if it makes sense, or you would consider extending it along the northern edge of the property along the Merritt Parkway. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. DeQuilla, any further questions that the applicant should answer? Mr. Corey? None. Mr. Prush?
No question.
Mr. Cinto? Any questions you'd like to get answered for next time? No? Okay. Mr. LeConte? He's not there? He's on mute. You have to unmute yourself, Lair.
Yeah, no questions. You hear me?
Okay, thank you.
No
So
questions.
I'm going to reiterate for the engineering review of the stormwater report and retention. I want the applicant to have the same understanding of the position that we're in, which is when a homeowner wants to put a pool in and he needs to fix a pipe in the yard, and we say as a condition of approval that he will meet the town engineer's stormwater retention plan, they know what they have to do, they put the pipe in. In this particular case, when the minds met, we haven't had a meeting of the minds yet, is the way I'm going to phrase it. So, with the input from the city of Bridgeport and the town of Fairfield and the town of Trumbull, the stormwater retention plan, as interpreted by our town engineer, is going to have to be met by the next meeting so that we can present this to the public. We will not allow a condition of approval to be the work it out later of the storm retention plan. That has to be done as a matter of moving forward.
Nor do we, by the way. Nor do we.
That's good. So that will be done, and hopefully in less time. I know there was back and forth this time. It wasn't a tremendous onus on you guys, but we need to get that information because it takes them a while to go through it, and it's always a back and forth when it's done. So whatever you can do to cooperate and get all your experts on that would be great.
No, if you give me 2 seconds, all the data has been supplied to Bill. I think it was earlier today. Bill obviously needs a little bit of time to do that. So he's been supplied with all the information. He and John Schmidt's been working really closely together, very cooperatively. And I think that we will have a resolution in the very near future.
Okay. So,
Chairman, I did have one when you're done.
go ahead.
There was some
Commissioner Corey has a
discussion-
question in the microphone.
Yeah, there was some discussion last meeting about, when somebody's trying to enter, you know, if they don't have a pass, they could try calling the room. But is there any systems in place? Can you investigate if there's any systems in place where, like if there was a camera in a call center, someone who was stuck at that gate could call some manager, or it doesn't have to be a guard there, but some entity where they could talk to somebody if there's nobody home? Can you check into that?
Okay, I mean, why don't we respond to that next time, because I think we're trying to hear
Yeah.
the chairman's schedule.
Yeah, that's quick. Yeah, because most places have guard shacks. They're not 24/7, but in the high volume times, they are manned.
Okay.
So, Rob, when's the date of the next regular meeting? 9th?
The day of the regular scheduled meeting is September 16th.
Okay. So our next time together is Wednesday the 16th. We have a provisional date to offer, and I just want to make sure the commissioners are okay, of Thursday, September 24th at 7 p.m. So that will be the continuation of this application on its own merits with no other interference for the evening. And at that particular meeting, I would expect that any of the few questions we have in a discussion on the stormwater retention plan and staff's final comments, and staff has no comments tonight that they want to put on the record that need to be answered.
Well, I just have one, Mr. Chairman. There was discussion about the generator at the apartment buildings. I know it's a requirement of the fire marshal she's requesting a generator at the
clubhouse.
At
right.
the clubhouse.
Yes, right. We're doing that. The question is generators at each of the other buildings.
I just want
Okay.
the commission aware of that.
Okay, that's good. All right, so, and one of the other discussion items, so the commissioners know, we're gonna, because of COVID and the change of meetings and the change of structures and all that, we've been meeting at 7 p.m. The commissioners like that. It gets us in here a half hour early, and the applicants and everyone else. I think we're gonna continue, as long as everybody's okay, that the meetings will be at 7 going forward, at least while we're still in the pandemic, so that we're in here at 7 because we have the ability. We'll still meet on the same Wednesday every month for the regular meetings, but we'll make them at 7 o'clock so that we're in here a half hour earlier. Is everybody okay with that? If they're not, we can keep it at 7:30, but it just gets us here that much sooner and out that much sooner.
I do have something going on that day. I might be cutting it close.
What day?
The 24th, but
Okay.
I could try.
So let's leave it there, and we'll see if we, if we have to go to 7:15 or something, or we'll see what it is, and we'll work with you. I want you to be here. I want it to work. So, well, there's a lot of moving parts. Are the commissioners okay if we meet at 7 for all our meetings going forward during the pandemic?
Sounds good to me.
Corey, yes? Mr. DeQuilla, okay? Mr. Silver?
Yeah, my commute is now downstairs, so I don't have to worry about
Yeah, mine's 2 hours. Mr. Cinto? You're okay? 7 o'clock's good? Yeah. Mr. Perush? You're good. Mr. LeConte, you on the,
Yes,
you're good with 7, okay.
I'm going with 7.
Meetings, the regular meetings and the special meetings, we're gonna do at 7 o'clock. All right, so we're gonna take a motion now to continue this application to a special meeting on Thursday, September 24th at 7 p.m. Somebody want to make the motion?
I'll make the
Mr.
motion.
DeQuilla, second. Mr. Silver, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Corey is aye. It's unanimous. All 5 voted yes. Okay, so let me just look at the agenda just in case. I think that's it. because this is
Chairman?
a special meeting. Go ahead.
If I could just add something, I just would like to retract the statement of the last meeting that we had for this application. I stated that the Economic and Community Development Commission gave a letter in favor of this application, but they did not. It was the Trumbull Chamber of Commerce. So I just would like that corrected
Okay.
into the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to go over the letters at the end in bulk with for and against. Okay, so hearing no other business, I will finish the same way we started with thanking our professional staff here from IT and community television. You've done a great job. We are setting a trend here with live and Zoom at the same time. Thank you very much, and thank you for working those hours. I'll take a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Sober and seconded by Mr. Tequila. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous.